The draft's in the rear view, but there's more to what happens next. What's our favorite, and what is going to happen that they can still get impact with today on Locked On Chiefs?
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in, Chiefs Kingdom. Thanks for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And make another Locked On show your next listen. Maybe it's a rival, maybe it's something else. We appreciate that because we're free and available for you everywhere, all the time, on every platform you can think of. We're brought to you today by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. You can get that turn any TV into an Xbox. No console needed right now. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. We're going to go through a deep breath, a takeaway. What, after reflection, we're really feeling about this class, where the impact still has to come. Where's their opportunity to still improve this 90-man and eventually the 53? That's the task Brett Veach is faced with right now. We're going to do that a little bit later. Before that, we will get to our least favorite and maybe troublesome picks of this draft and why we have a little bit of concern. But we're going to start on the positive side, our favorite pick and what the fit really is for not just the immediate future, but the long-term future. So I'll start it with you. What's the one that you were like, that's what I wanted, that's my favorite?
Josh Simmons. And I know a lot of people are going to say, somebody that may not even play in 2025 that's coming in with an injury, they don't understand it. But to me, it says everything that I needed the Chiefs to say. They're serious about protecting Patrick Mahomes. That's all they needed to say. And to me, that's why it's my favorite pick. If he can come in and be, like I said the past couple of days, if he can come in and be just above average, it's still worth a first-round grade. It's still worth a first-round pick for me. Doesn't matter if he can't start in 2025.
So whenever he gets there, it's enough to be your favorite pick.
Yep. I think there's
hair, isn't it?
It's not the hair. It's protecting Patrick Mahomes. You have a franchise quarterback that is taking you to 5 Super Bowls in 6 years. They've won 3 of them. That's insane to say.
Yeah.
Let alone even think about when we started this 9 years ago. So you invest in protecting him and you give him the ability to stand upright and not have to be always looking over his shoulder. And I think that will also open up the offense downfield.
I agree. And I will tell you this too. I love his personality coming through on the little media hits he did for the Chiefs when he calls himself quarterback protector, not offensive tackle. Josh Simmons, quarterback protector. I like that announcement style. I would be lying if I didn't agree with you. It would be my favorite pick, but for sake of argument, my next favorite has some risk to it. But I love the way the kid plays, and I love his attitude. Everything that we've heard post-draft has been uber positive about just what the character of this kid is. Ashton Gillotte is a player that I pegged 2 years ago for this defense because of the energy he brings to his pass rush. Now, that's when he was a hand in the dirt, more of an outside shoulder attacker, pass rush DN, not as much move around, right? I think his skill set has actually improved. He plays like a Tasmanian devil. Yes, the arms are a bit short, but that comes through. And adding that burst of energy when you've had some long-limbed and long-striding edges, much like Frank Clark, Charles Omeni, who falls in that category for me, like, I want that hyperactivity. I think he's a guy that can spell right now, whether it's Omeni or Dana or FAU that starts opposite George Karlaftis. Having that, hey, guess what? We're going to bring in a backup, and he's going to up the level of pass rush against your quarterback and make him that much more twitchy. I love that. And I think that's a really unique role to be able to go to that says not only about this player, but the depth that he provides on this roster. So it's my favorite pick. And I also love the fit. Is it as good as Josh Simmons and, being the left tackle of the future if he can get there? No, but it's definitely something that's going to help him win ball games.
Yeah. And again, you look back at this draft, and I know we're talking about Josh Simmons. Now we're talking about Gillotte. I'm going to throw, and I'm not saying he's my favorite, but I want to throw Norman Lott in there for just the simple fact of what I love about what they did in this draft is they hyper-focused on the trenches. And when you get better in the trenches, it's going to show up on the field. And I know a lot of people don't like trenches picks. They're not sexy. I get that. But the reality is you have to have good play on the offensive line and in the defensive line. If you get good play, even above average play from both of those groups, it makes your entire offense and your entire defense better. So to me, that's really what I was happy with. I wish they would have been able to focus a little bit more on the defensive line because I still think that they need some help. And we can talk about that later. But that's why I want to add the Norman Lott pick in there, because to me, my favorite part of this draft, my favorite pick was Simmons, but my favorite part of the draft itself was the fact that they continue to focus on the trenches. They want to get better there. And that is where they got beat so horribly bad in the Super Bowl on both sides of the ball to an extent.
I like that philosophy. Just continue to push what works, get it done so that it does. My favorite pick is going to be the guy that makes the biggest impact. We'll revisit this in 3 years, and that's the way it's going to boil down. My guess is it's one of the guys that we just talked about. But let us know who yours are. There's also a flip side to this coin. Every favorite has to have your least favorite. Who are ours in this draft class? Coming up next.
Have you ever checked your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place so you can stop managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch Money, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery, and now I budget smarter and I save much more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
You always have to have the flip side, and you always have to enjoy that part of the conversation as well. We covered our favorites just a little bit ago. We're going to talk about where they can still pick up impact coming up in a little while, but the least favorite pick, and more importantly, why it's the least favorite pick. I think that's what we have to get to, because as much as there's always a ceiling in a draft class, and this one looks like, if everything pans out the way they project it to, this could be a heck of a draft class. We could be talking about this just like we have the the Trent McDuffie class, the Creed Humphrey class. This has that potential, but there's also some risk too. So when you take a step back, what's your least favorite pick of this draft?
And it's not because I don't like the player. And it's not because I don't understand the thought process. But my least favorite pick of the draft is Bosa. I like all the other picks. I like the defensive picks that they've made. And it's not that I don't like Bosa. It's more of, I think that there's other positions that they could have addressed that there would be more value as opposed to a guy that's probably going to be just a core special teamer and maybe just a core special teamer for you for the next 2 years. But at the same time, if he can come in and he can give them exactly what they want, then maybe it's going to end up being a good pick. But that's why I would say it's my least favorite pick, and why it's my least favorite pick, because if you start looking at the rest of them, the top 4 can start in the first 2 years. I would say most will probably have a pretty good chance at starting well, maybe not Gillotte, but edge rushers are one of those types of players that don't necessarily start a lot. Like the starters you have, it makes more sense to have Mike Dana start than it would Gillotte, because Mike Dana is going to stop the run, and that's what you're going to be trying to do on first down. Gilotte's not going to be that guy, but that doesn't make him less valuable, in my opinion.
I can get that. And I would agree, Boz is my least favorite as well. Again, not because of the player, because of the circumstance around it. To go linebacker and trade up a little bit, what was it, 8 spots, I believe, to make that selection on a 5th round that you got in an earlier trade, it's all gravy. But I will say this. I think there were better ways to use that trade up power. I would have liked to see them go up to the top of the 4th round and try to get Ty Robinson, go up to the top or the bottom of the 4th round and try to get a coverage linebacker in Teddy Buchanan that I like the fit for a little bit better, given that you have some power in both Leo Chenal, who I expect to come back after this contract year, as well as Nick Bolton. But I see the value in trying to create a player that is better against the pass, an upgrade over Nick Bolton in terms of natural ability, but can also play that MLB role. Nick had to miss a couple of games last year with injury, and that's not his fault, but that is a cost of doing business as you get older at linebacker. So I think that you can project that you're going to need somebody to stand into that role. That does make sense. But there were also some other players like Smail Monin still on the board that I think could have done a similar job.
Yeah, and the thing that's interesting about what you just said that I hadn't really considered is if you look at it from the aspect of Nick Bolton is likely to miss a game or two, probably the rest of his career in Kansas City over the next 3 years, a game or two every single season. This gets you to a position where he can step in and be your starter, and you don't downgrade necessarily 2 positions. Don't get me wrong, you're going to lose a downgrade with Bolton going out, but moving somebody to another position and bringing somebody else in is what happened with Joe Thuney, and that's not what you want to be in a situation to do. And that's what the Chiefs have had to do because they don't really have somebody that they feel comfortable with as a backup linebacker, backup Mike linebacker.
Agreed. And I will also go one step farther as well. I do feel that this is directly influenced by the guy that is coaching the linebacker level. Brendan Daly likes a little bit of take on power, maybe more so than the freewheeling athleticism of a true coverage linebacker. I think in today's game, that's a risky proposition. Now, this is a nice medium because of Boss's unique combination of skills. But I will say this, I think the modernization of the Chiefs linebacker core has to continue not only this year, but following years as well. And that's something that I do place on Brandon Daly.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see if they can continue to get better and they can continue to up their game, because one of the reasons that we didn't know if Nick Bolton would be back, and especially at the price tag, is because of his pass coverage liability to an extent. And the reality is he is never going to get to be, I don't know what you would say, good at it. Like maybe he can get better a little bit, but with age, he's going to get slower and it's going to be worse. His game is predicated on his instincts, and that's not going to help him when it comes to pass coverage. When he gets older, he's going to be slower, and he's already slow. The reason you don't see it with him necessarily is because he reads things so quickly and so well, he can hide that. But as he gets slower, it's going to become a bigger issue. The nice thing is he's young enough to where we probably won't see that necessarily until the very back end of this contract.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is maybe one of the big takeaway lessons here is just how well this Chiefs front office plans for not just this season or next season, but the evolution based on the contract length and where you think they're going to break down. Tyreek Hill broke down as soon as he left Kansas City. L'Jarius Sneed broke down immediately when he left Kansas City. That projection is super important, and it allows you to make moves like this to plan for the future.
Can I make a point, though? And I hadn't thought about this until you just said that, though. When you take that in context and you talk about what we talked about in the first segment about our favorite pick in Joshua Simmons, look at what the Chiefs were able to get done with Tyreek Hill and with L'Jarius Sneed, and what happened to them the second they left this medical staff and the Chiefs taking care of them and making sure that they were staying how they needed their bodies to stay. That should give you a little bit of comfort, a little bit even more comfort than what you would have normally on a guy like Josh Simmons coming in with that kind of injury.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and something to give you a little bit of a refresher of confidence if you've been stewing about Josh Simmons for the last day or two. The excellent point, and I really do like that. These guys are going to make impact, but you still need a little bit more. Where do they need to goose up this roster? That's coming up next. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving away new customers an incredible way to get into the action right now. When you join FanDuel and you place a first bet of $5, you can earn up to $250 in bonus bets if that bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes it easy no matter what season it is. Now that March Madness is over, we're moving it on to the NBA. It's going to be baseball, and then we are going to finally get back to ball on the field for the NFL. From three-pointers to steals to assists to making those kicks, it's all here, and your chance is at FanDuel. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Now, everything has to continue to build. It's been, 48, 30, 72 hours since the draft for Brett Veach and his crew. It's time to get right back to the grind. You signed UDFAs. You still have to keep digging. Where do you need to add more, whether it's that, and if there's anything maybe more drastic that you need to do? I think mostly on this roster, it's depth. Particularly for me, it's continued to just keep scrounging for corners and nickel safeties that can come in and play roles. Right now, I think CRW has a leg up along with the new draft pick in Noah Williams against some of the incumbents here, including Najee Johnson, who just re-signed, and we'll see about Joshua Williams. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't keep hunting for more, whether it's a player that went undrafted or whether it's now somebody that you might be able to project might lose a position battle in someone's scheme, but might be better off in your scheme. Pro personnel right now should be redoubling their efforts to see who might lose some of those battles.
Yeah, when you look at this, it's going to be interesting for me because right now, Kansas City, before their draft picks, and let's see, they have currently on their roster 82 players, which means they still have all their rookies to sign, and I believe their rookie pool is about $3 to $4 million that they're going to need. But that's going to also be, top 51. The whole reason I bring that up, we're talking about the draft, we're talking about UDFAs. What can they go do? I bring it up because what is the other thing that's going on right now across the NFL? Teams are cutting veterans.
Yep.
That they know aren't going to be on the roster. This is the time, if you can find somebody, a young veteran, or even just a veteran at this point, that you can go get a defensive tackle. This is where you could go maybe get another defensive tackle. This is where you could add different pieces because somebody went out and drafted a replacement for somebody. And as soon as they drafted that guy, now you have somebody that's going to be cut, and they already know that they're going to be cut. So you cut them now, and maybe the Chiefs are able to do it. And they have about $12 million in cap space. I would say after the rookie pool, probably closer to 10, maybe 9. But the other caveat on all this, and the thing that's going to play into how they can do everything, is the Trey Smith deal, which is also going to be ramping up over the next month. So all of that plays into what can they get back from the Trey Smith deal. Right now, he's on the cap for $24 million. I think that his number will be closer to 8 to 10. So that could be $14 million in cap space. Could be. We'll see. But they could also get other extensions for other guys. We've talked about Chanel. We've talked about, McDuffie and Karlaftis. That's all of that plays into where they can add impact because you still have money that you haven't had in the past, and you have the ability to create even more money. And this is like a fourth wave or fifth wave, however you want to look at it, of free agency, because there are going to be teams that are getting rid of players that you wouldn't have expected to be available.
You hit the position group that I was going to name right on the head because these are the names: Mike Pennell, Jerry Tillery, Marlon Tuipulotu, who couldn't get onto the roster last year, Siaki Ika, that couldn't get onto the roster last year, Fabian Lovett, who I still really do like, but couldn't get onto the roster last year. Those are the guys competing with Norman Lott right now. Omar's got a chance to be a heavy rotational player. A defensive tackle, elder or otherwise, that had a high grade when he came out should be the top target for Brett Veach and his pro personnel group right now and literally until the day the season starts, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And, if you can add any other positions, whether it's skill positions on offense, whether it's wide receiver, tight end, I don't really think that there's room at running back. But any positions that you can add depth to, you have an opportunity here with, like I said, whatever you want to call it, the fifth wave for free agency, I guess. After the draft, there's always guys that become available that you didn't expect to have a chance at, and they could make a big impact. And when I say big, it doesn't mean that they're coming in and they're giving you 10 sacks. It just could mean that they come in and they give you 500 snaps, and they're 500 quality snaps. Because the reality is that just because you don't rack up stats doesn't mean you don't play an important part of a defense, or kind of the same on offense to an extent.
Yeah, and that's really where it comes down to is can you make that impact? I still think even though UDFA signings that might contribute, I do think tight end is another one there because of the question around Wiley and obviously Noah Gray. I don't think is a guy that can be the primary tight end in a passing attack. I do think he's a complementary player. So the future is still out there at the tight end position. I would keep my eye heavily on that position group as well.
Well, and you look at wide receiver, and I know people are going to look at it and say, well, we've already got 5, 6 if you count Nico Remigio before you even get into the rest of the guys that they still have here. But the reality is how many of those guys aren't going to be around next year? Hollywood Brown won't be back. Juju Smith-Schuster won't be on the roster, more than likely, I would imagine. Nico Remigio is an undrafted free agent who's a returner and hasn't really shown much on offense. There's possibly 3 guys that don't belong on the roster next year in 2026. You have to be looking at the bigger picture of beyond just 2025. It's, can you find a wide receiver that maybe just lost his spot because they drafted somebody ahead of him? I mean, the reality is there's probably going to be somebody out there that maybe you could go give a couple $1 million to, and you get him here this year, and maybe you only get him for a 1-year deal, but maybe that leads to a deal next year because he loved playing for Andy Reid and they go win another Super Bowl. There's lots of different ways this could happen. The Chiefs are in a position to spend money that they haven't had in years at this time of the year. Not saying they have to, and I'm also not saying they will, because that's generally not how they've done things. But they have the ability to, and you have to wonder, what are they going to do with all the money when they get the Trey Smith deal done? Because I know for a fact that is one of the biggest things that's on Brett Veach's list after this draft got over with, after signing all the UDFAs, looking at guys that are getting cut around the league right now. It's that deal needs to get done because it holds up everything else behind it.
Yep, you're absolutely right. It is the king domino right now. We're going to check in with Matt Derrick on that tomorrow, as well as run down his takeaways, inside notice. He did have a couple of really nice nuggets pre-drafts. Let's see what he has to say post-draft, and we're going to run it all down for you as we get started looking towards OTAs for this new class of draft picks in Kansas City. We appreciate you guys being with us. We hope that you are ready for the offseason as it starts. Take a breath. It's going to take a second, but after that, we're going to have a lot of new jersey numbers, et cetera, to go over, track, and take a look at. I hope that you'll be with us because we're here for you all the time. Make sure you like and sub and get connected with us both here and on the audio side. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.